Thank you. Thank you very much. Senator Kaine is next.
Well, just to respond, the issue is not, is there lawless behavior that can be controlled by local law enforcement? You either believe in a federal system or you don't, where a governor requests the National Guard or doesn't, and you either believe in a civilian military division or you don't. Now, President Trump has addressed this topic in September of 2020. Look, we have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that. Even in a Portland case, we can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor. I'll set aside all the ad hominem partisan attacks and just say this. Senator Cotton brings up the example of Little Rock. President Eisenhower, Republican president, did federalize the Guard in that instance. Why? Because it was the governor that was violating federal law. There is no suggestion that Governor Newsom is violating federal law. In fact, he said, arrest me if I'm violating the law. And yesterday, the chief border agent for the United States said, there is no cause to arrest you. You are not violating federal law. And so the right balance in this instance is to let a local official, mayor, governor, seek assistance if they need it. If the president decides more assets are needed, we wouldn't even be having this discussion if he said in federal law enforcement, FBI, DEA, federal law enforcement. We're having this discussion because the president, in an unprecedented way, without a request and over the objection of the local elected leadership, has sent in the United States military, and that is unprecedented. General Smith, I want to just compliment you. You listed 3 pillars of the area you're working on, and number 3 was quality of life. Yesterday, I was at Yorktown Naval Base, and I visited your Marine Corps Security Force Regiment to see advances they're making on Barracks 2030, and it was very, very impressive. And I told them that this is a real template for what we ought to be looking at Marine-wide and DOD-wide, and I just wanted to compliment you on that. To Secretary Phelan and Admiral Kilby, Senator Fisher has asked you about Columbia class. I was going to ask, but normally just focus on, can you talk about where we are in trying to get Virginia class production up to speed?
Yeah, I'll start, sir. We're not where we want to be, and we're not satisfied with it. We're at a 1.1 when we need to be on a 2.0 pace for us and 2.33 for the ultimate goal here with the AUKUS program.
And just the timing of that, we need to be at 2.33 kind of in the early to mid-30s if we're going to, be able to meet the commitments that we've made to the Aussies who've invested in our workforce to do that. Isn't that right?
That's correct, sir.
We have a heavy lift, 1.1 to 2.3 within 10 years.
Yes, sir. I do think there's been a bunch of investments that we've enjoyed because of your approval in the maritime industrial base and the submarine industrial base in particular that I believe will help us here. But we do need the prime contractors to deliver and sequence work and get it done and focus on productivity, just as Secretary Phelan laid out.
Let me ask you this, Admiral Kilby. There's been a lot of attention to a couple of the mishaps in the Truman Carrier Strike Group, but the group did such good work. We had a committee briefing about this last week, and I think some of the positives of the work that was done under very difficult circumstances haven't really been described. Could you share with the committee?
I certainly can, sir. Thank you. I was privileged to go out and visit that strike group returning home the day before, 2 days before she returned home. Just to kind of give you a quick soundbite, that strike group defended themselves, other ships, or other countries 160 times successfully. They conducted 670 strikes into Somalia, either from the air or from the land. They conducted the largest single airstrike ever launched from a carrier with 124,000 pounds of munitions that detonated within 2 minutes of each other in Somalia. They participated in 8 named operations. They worked for 3 different combatant commanders. They did great work for our nation. And
they did not just the nation, but the world. They really did good work. I have some questions about why other allies didn't do more, but I'm glad that we did what we did. Finally, Secretary Phelan, I've been hearing good reviews of your traveling around to the shipyards, and you talked about it a little bit, but what would be some insights that you have about on the procurement side in terms of improvements that you believe you want to explore further based upon your tours thus far?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Look, I think some of it is how we contract things, how we locate things in terms of where our vendors are, in terms of proximity to shipyards. I think we have to really look at the manufacturing process of modules and what we're doing. I think in the next Virginia class, we have to really consider having HII build and EV build versus the two of them co-building. I think we need to introduce some competition back into the system. And I think one of the issues we've dealt with, particularly with Virginia, is some of these boats were first of class. Even though it looks the same, it's very different. I think we're getting over that curve and learning faster. And I think candidly, it's just, one of the things I would say, interestingly, every company I met with, every public shipyard I was at, they all bragged about their training. But when I sat down with all the workers, the one thing they said they didn't have really good was training. And so I think there are better ways to train them and get them in there and get them up to speed faster. And these are things we're all looking at.
Thank you very much.